Welcome to Psychology Today. I'm your host, Ann Morrow. This is a show about bicycling in general and specifically about bicycle safety. Thank you for joining us. And I want to thank our crew in the control booth who is helping us put on this show. Without their technology, we would be unable to put on this show, so we certainly appreciate their efforts and their volunteering. And thank you to Northwest Bicycle Safety Council, who produces Psychology Today. We have two different guests on our show, and both of them have been on the show before, but they're both so involved with our bicycling community here that we wanted to have them back and find out what's new in their worlds and what's going on and get a heads up about bicycling. First, we have Timo Foresberg, who's here from the city of Portland, Active Transportation, and we'll find out what he's up to and find out what's going on with the driving force between all things bicycle in Portland. And then we'll talk to Todd, who leads organized tours around the state of Oregon and in Portland, and he's also got a new book out that shares some of his favorite rides in the Portland area, and find out how he does what he does. And he's kind of, I think, in an enviable position in that he's a professional bike ride leader, and many of us do that on a volunteer basis, and he does it for a living. First, before we get started, I do want to mention our Beaverton Banks and Beyond Bicycle Tour. It's getting to be that time of year again when Northwest Bicycle Safety Council is getting ready for their big event ride, and it's how we earn money to do our bicycle fairs and buy helmets and help teach children how to ride on the road safely. So we hope that you'll join us. It's a great bicycle ride. It's something to put on your calendar as a goal, something to work to achieve throughout the summer, or maybe as a good training ride for something more ambitious that you're doing later in the summer or early fall. So that's Beaverton Banks and Beyond, and it's on August 23rd. So go to our website, which will be showing on the screen throughout the show, and get signed up for that ride, and we'll take really good care of you. And there's also a beautiful jersey that you can buy to kind of commemorate that wonderful ride that you're going to have on August 23rd. So we'll look forward to seeing you there. I usually run SAG, so I'll be driving around in a car to help rescue you if you get into trouble that day. So let's get on to our show. Welcome back to Psychology Today, Timo.
Thanks so much for having me.
Glad you could make it. I was joking that it's such a beautiful day that you would take time out from a nice bike ride to come sit in a TV studio. So it seems like the Portland metro area's fascination with alternative transportation, bicycling, and walking is not just a fling. It's pretty serious. So we're going to talk about that. And before we do, though, I want you to tell us a little bit about what's going on with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a transplant. I grew up in New Haven, Connecticut, and did my bike riding in the area around there, and brought my bike with me when I went to college in California, and I eventually moved up to Portland on the urging of some college friends from Portland. And a large part of that was because I realized what a beautiful place it is to bicycle, and how easy it is to live without a car, and to get around by so many different means. And walking is certainly a great one. Portland has been named Best Walking City by, I believe it was the American Podiatrist Association a few years ago. And if podiatrists don't know about walking, who does?
Yeah.
But I just fell in love with the town, and so I've been here for almost 20 years.
Well, good. We've benefited from you being here. Now, you just mentioned you came here because you can bike. Are you a bike commuter then? Do you commute by bike to work?
I do. I bike every day. Actually, we don't have a car in our household.
You don't?
No, we have several car share memberships. So if we ever need a car, we've got a few different ways that we can get one. I live about a 30-minute bike ride from my work, and so it's a great way to start the day. Wakes me up in the morning and calms me down at night, and whether it's beautiful like it is today or raining and overcast, something about being on the bike just makes the getting there better.
Wow, so you've really made that a part of your your life, and that's kind of why you moved here in the first place. By the same token, I think you'd get ridiculed if you like drove up in a great big vehicle of some sort at your place of work and what you do for a living.
My co-workers would probably give me a little bit of a hard time. It's true, since our job is to promote
Yes.
active transportation.
Uh-huh.
So I'm doing my best not to get made fun of.
Well, it sounds like that's an integral part of you, though, and not just peer pressure.
Mm-hmm.
So you're also a ride leader at times through the shift,
Mm-hmm.
different organized rides, and you sometimes do Pedal-Palooza events. What kinds of rides do you like to lead?
I have tended to lead food rides.
Ah,
I have a good friend, Ben Salzberg, who led the first taco ride way back when Pedal-Palooza was still bike summer or mini bike summer, and going back 10 or 12 years. And that ride was pretty popular for the time. It was maybe 10 or 20 people.
mm-hmm.
And he went and visited several different taco carts or taco stores, and people, would ride, and then they'd stop and get a taco, and then they ride to the next place and compare and contrast, and so it was a lot of fun. And I realized, that's a great way to attract people.
Uh-huh.
Food, everyone's
Uh-huh.
interested. So I've led several donut-based rides. I led a ride called the Night of the Living Donut, where the goal was to go to as many donut shops that are open after 10 p.m. as possible. And I led what I called the Metro-wide Kaiten Sushi ride. Kaiten Sushi is the kind that rolls around. You don't have to sit down and order. I mean,
Oh,
generally
right.
you sit down, but
Uh-huh.
the sushi comes around on a little
Yes.
track or a boat or something
Uh-huh,
like that. And
uh-huh.
so what I found is I had a friend who based a ride around Thai food, and so we'd ride and we get to the Thai food restaurant, and then we were there for an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can go someplace, pick up a little something, try it out,
Yeah.
and then keep riding, it's enough to pique people's interest and hopefully whet their appetite a little bit. And it makes for a fun ride.
Yes, absolutely. My husband always says if you put some kind of food in the name of the ride, they will come.
It's a little secret.
Uh-huh.
You've let the cat out of the bag.
Sorry.
Or is it the ketchup out of the bag?
Yeah. So let's talk about Pedal-Palooza, because that is something that you enjoy. It's something that I think Portland is pretty famous for. It's in June every year, so it's coming up soon, and you've led rides for that. What is Pedal-Palooza?
Well, Pedal-Palooza started originally from Bike Summer, and Bike Summer was an idea that originated in San Francisco, and they basically said, let's have a month of bike events, and we'll just get lots of people to organize them. So the operating principle was really that there was a kind of a committee that collected all the ideas and then put out a website, but anybody could put an idea on the website. And so that went to a few different cities and got to Portland in 2002, and it was all of August, and I think there were a grand total of maybe 60 rides on the calendar, and that seemed huge.
Yeah.
It was certainly more events than I had ever seen in one place, and I just got the bug there. Speaking of food and bikes, my favorite event was Breakfast on the Bridges.
Uh-huh.
And they just set up on the Broadway Bridge, and anybody who rode up on a bike could get coffee and donuts and, have a little conversation, get to find out what else was going on. So the next year, it happened again as mini bike summer. We only did it for 2.5 weeks then. We weren't as ambitious. And the following year, we changed the name to Pedal-Palooza, and it kept going, and then added another week back. So it's practically all of June. It starts June 5th, a Thursday, and goes through the last Saturday of June. And boy, now I think there's over 200 rides generally, rides and events.
Yes.
So there'll be, talks, and there was a play on a bike, the amazing experience. You'd ride from place to place, and the actors would put on a little scene at one of the stops, and then you'd keep riding, but the actors would also be along the route, so you'd see them kind of interacting with each other as you rode along. Really clever stuff that happens during Pedal-Palooza.
There is, and I think there's there's one in Vancouver, a very short, like 6 miles, and you go around to some of the historical trees.
Oh, fun.
And look at those, and there's somebody knowledgeable that tells you all about them, and so it's just a short little ride, and just very informative. So anything goes, and anybody can join in.
That's it.
If you've got an idea.
And I love those kind of rides. If you have something that you're passionate about, maybe it's all the drugstores that still have a soda fountain. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
you could just lead a ride and everybody could stop and get a phosphate, or you could, go to the library and look up some things about those particular drugstores, find out a little history, and then bring that to the ride, and then, it helps people sort of understand the place where they live. And that's a great part about bicycling, because you're out in the open, you're right there in the environment.
Yes.
You get to see the sights, you get to smell the smells.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes that's good,
Yeah,
sometimes that's bad.
not so good.
And you can stop easily and check something out that's interesting.
Yeah, very easily. And what a great thing. Now, but ironically, May is Bike Month, and then
Right.
June is Pedalpalooza. But I guess we just keep it going.
And we keep it going, and then September is the Bike Commute Challenge.
Yeah.
And July and August, what are you going to do in July and August but ride your bike because it's beautiful?
That's right.
We don't need an excuse.
So aside from Pedalpalooza, you're also involved with Sunday Parkways, and we just had one this past weekend. So we'll have other Sunday Parkways throughout the summer: June, July, August, and September. There's 5 each year, one a month, in
Yes.
different neighborhoods. So tell us about that concept. Tell us why and what motivated it.
Well, Sunday Parkways is one of my favorite events, or maybe I should say 5 of my favorite events, since it happens once a month for 5 months. I was at a conference, Pro Walk, Pro Bike, several years ago with a couple of coworkers, including my boss, Linda Ginenthal, and we heard a presentation about an event called Ciclovías. And that is, I guess the generic term that we use now is an open streets event. And the idea is, in any city, you have this great public space, the streets. And normally it's filled with cars and trucks and, things going on. But it's a space that could also be used for other things. And in Bogota, Colombia, they use it because they have especially when it started, they had very few parks in many areas of the city. And you can't just go and make a new park very easily. It takes a lot of work. So they realized, well, they could close the street to cars and open it up to people and invite folks to lead exercises and dance and invite people to walk and ride their bike and go on roller skates, and really give people a chance to get out as a park does. You can get out and you can be active even if you live in a small apartment. If there's a park nearby, you can get out and play in the park. If there's no park nearby, well, in Bogota, every Sunday, you can go on ciclovías.
Okay.
And we thought about that, and we realized, there's a lot of people, even though Portland is blessed with a lot of parks, there are a lot of people who just don't get out and get active, and also don't really know that there are a great network of low-traffic streets in Portland that they could be active. They could walk or bike and not be surrounded by a lot of loud and sometimes smelly vehicles. And so the Sunday Parkways idea came about as an idea to really invite people out to see their streets, to learn about the neighborhoods as well. And we call it connecting communities, connecting neighborhoods, because the route is a 7 to 9 mile circuit. Vehicles are not allowed, although neighbors who live on the route, if they need to get off the route, we'll have a volunteer accompanying them in their car to get to the street where they can go out and do their business. But we encourage them to just join us for the day.
Yeah.
It's 5 hours, and many people like to just sit on their porch and watch the world go by. We get 12 to 20-some thousand people at each event. And so it's an amazing parade of people on bikes, on roller skates, families with kids, dogs, all kinds of folks, people dressed up. And the route will connect different parks in each neighborhood. So as you mentioned, last Sunday we were in East Portland, and I was working at Bloomington Park. My wife was working at Glenwood Park, and so when my shift was over, I rode my bike along the route, got down to Glenwood. I got to see what was happening there. There were food vendors, there was Shakespeare being played, there was Circus Cascadia, so lots of activities for families to get out and enjoy.
There really is. Even though it's just 7 miles, it's challenging if you have a smaller child to hit everything, because they're so intrigued at every park that you spend time, and the food.
So many vendors, so much delicious food. So it's a great excuse to just get out and enjoy the day. It doesn't really, you don't have to spend any money. There's no entry fee. If you buy some food, yes. But
yeah.
otherwise, you pack a lunch and you go out and you listen to music or you do a Zumba dance class, and it can be a very inexpensive but really fun time for the family. And the route is generally set up along our neighborhood greenways network, so it's also showing off streets that, when they're open to cars, are still nice low traffic streets and fine places to ride a bike.
Well, and for instance, this last one, by Lentz Park, there's an overpass that's just bikes and pedestrians, which, until I did a Sunday Parkways in a previous year, I didn't even know that was there. And I bike a lot, just don't utilize that. I guess we're always on the spring waters, so don't come that way. But you learn some new things, some new ways for you to get around in your own neighborhood, maybe.
Exactly. It really shows off the gems of Portland neighborhoods. And I live in the Roseway neighborhood, so I do get around. I ride my bike a fair amount around the city, but there's many things I would never have known about it unless I went on Sunday Parkways and got to see them.
Well, we sure appreciate that, and you talked about the event itself and kind of who you're trying to reach out to, but how do you promote it, and who all are you really trying to reach? I mean, everybody from Portland Metro can come. It's not just for that neighborhood. Is that right?
Exactly. In fact, we look at it as a way for each neighborhood to kind of show off to the rest of the city. And we want everyone to come.
Yes.
But we're particularly interested in people who, might not otherwise think of getting on a bike, or might be really too busy, or it just might be a little intimidating to get onto a shared roadway. Perhaps they have kids and they don't really want to ride in a bike lane next to cars, or perhaps they just haven't been on a bike in a long time. So by opening up the street to people, which means the cars have to wait a few hours to come back onto that street, it really frees up the space. People can feel very safe and secure, that everyone is just going at a people-powered speed, walking or biking.
Yes.
And it just brings smiles to so many faces. Everyone is just thrilled to be out.
It is. It is a parade in a way, and it kind of has that, you just can't help but smile.
Yeah.
And two, for instance, last week, I think it was 92nd by Lentz Park, semi-busy road.
Yes.
So there were volunteers stopping the car traffic because that road remained open and there was just a pathway through. And so you were protected still, even though you were crossing a busy street.
Exactly.
You didn't have to worry about the safety because volunteers stopped traffic both ways.
That's right. And at our very busy streets, we have the police bureau.
Yes.
Working to keep the traffic stopped when there's a group of bikers and walkers, and then they'll take a break and let the cars pass, and then
occasionally.
Exactly, yeah. So traffic keeps going. We try not to, block transit routes. We want people to still be able to use, the bus to get where they need to go, and so basically it's kind of a more. It's a way of showing how you can share the road.
Yes. Yeah.
In very real time.
What a great thing for us to have. And when you first started Sunday Parkways, has it changed over the years? I mean, certainly your original concept and what you started out with, there's always little things to tweak. What kinds of things were those that have brought it to where it is now?
Well, when we started, I think we had about a 6-mile route in North Portland. I was working at Peninsula Park that day. And so many people came through and were just amazed they had not been to the Rose Garden in Peninsula Park, which to me was one of the great gems of Portland. And so that hasn't changed, showing off things. But we have lengthened the routes, made them a little bit longer. We started, on our first one, we started, I believe, at 9, I want to say, and we realized very quickly that nobody was showing up until 11. So now we start and go from 11 to 4. And that seems to work better with, Portland relaxed sense of time. Nobody wants to get up too early on a Sunday.
No.
And we also have spread to different neighborhoods in the city. So now we're in East Portland last week. Next month we will be in North Portland, I believe, and then Northeast, Southeast, and Southwest. So we try to get all around the city. We did try a Northwest downtown route for a couple of years, but it was just kind of tricky. It's so dense
Yeah.
downtown and in Northwest. It's hard to really find some space that doesn't
I
cause
suppose.
some problems.
Now, early on, I remember just being aghast that you're going to shut down city streets and that's going to work. And now, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it seems like, well, yeah, we're having Sunday parkways, and you just kind of take it for granted.
It's true. I mean, we're used to that overall. We've got the Portland Marathon.
Uh-huh.
People are used to seeing that happen. We have the Rose Festival. You know, streets are useful for vehicles. There's no getting around it. They were built for that, but they are also a great kind of public plaza.
Yeah.
And I think for kids who go out and see a parade for the first time, their eyes kind of widen, partly because of what they're seeing, but partly just the idea that, you know, folks are actually in the street and enjoying it. We've always been told not to play in the street, but sometimes if you get the chance to,
Yeah.
it gets that extra little sweetness of,
That's true.
of feeling like you're
Breaking
doing something
the
you don't
rules.
always get to do. Exactly.
You're getting away with it.
That's
and Mom
right.
and Dad are saying, yeah, let's do this.
That's right. So we're giving them a chance to do it in a safe way.
Yeah. Well, it's a great thing about Portland. Now, I just read that Portland has the highest percentage of commuters by bike among large cities. So what do you attribute that to?
Well, there's a lot of things that went into that. One of them is that there were a lot of foresighted people back in the 70s, the folks who put together the bicycle bill. And even before, when Portland was platted, we have the very short blocks made into a grid. So we have a lot of sort of natural advantages. It's not very hilly. So there are a lot of things that kind of are the base that make it a place where you could bike if everything else was in your favor. And so it's those other pieces of the everything else, and that means our City Transportation Bureau has taken time over the years since the 70s through the 90s when there were several bicycle boulevards made, into the 2000s when we had our neighborhood greenway program where we took low traffic streets and improved them to make them even better for folks who are riding bikes. So part of it is that we have nice network of roads and streets that you can ride on and paths. Part of it is that we have a pretty compact city, so you know, generally speaking, if someone's going to commute to work, they probably aren't going to want to ride more than a half an hour. Most people.
Yeah.
You know, have some
exceptions.
folks who are champions, and
Good for them.
you know, they'll ride to Salem. But for the majority of people, you know, that's kind of the limit. And so we have a fairly compact city that allows a lot of people to do that. We also have just a really polite culture. And so, you know, in general, when I'm riding around, I'm always pleased and impressed by how the other road users, and by that I mean the drivers and also pedestrians and other bicyclists, are generally watching out for each other.
Yes.
There isn't the kind of edge that you find in some other cities that makes people feel like they need to prioritize their own speed over everybody else.
Yeah.
And we have also had a big influx of folks who are young, who are kind of starting out and moving to Portland because they see that we've got a lot of great things here. And maybe they don't have a lot of money and they see it's easy to get around by bike, and that's the cheapest way you can go. If you have to go someplace a little farther than you can walk, heck, riding a bike, you can get by with, you know, basically the cost of a couple of inner tubes per year if you work it right.
Yeah, yeah.
So we've got a lot of advantages going on. And then there's things like Pedalpalooza that kind of draw in folks who may not have tried it before, and they try a fun ride and they realize, wow, this wasn't so hard, I'm going to try that tomorrow again, and they just keep doing it.
And you teach some classes, a little more intimate than Sunday parkways, Portland Bicycle Rides and Classes. And so those things might help a commuter or somebody get on a bike and start riding? That's
the idea, yes. We have a series of rides that start in the spring, and we have a class called Cycling Essentials, where we go over, you know, how do you make your bike comfortable, you know, get fit on it, what do you need to know about things to wear, what do you need to know about how do you carry things if you need to get to a meeting and you need to carry a briefcase. So we talk about the essentials. But we also have classes like Shop by Bike, where you can learn how to carry more involved things. At each of those classes, you get to build a bike bucket and put hooks on a plastic bucket, and that fits on your back rack, and it's a waterproof pannier. I teach a class called Finding Your Way with Maps and Apps. because we produce a lot of bike and walk maps
Yes.
at my bureau, and there's so much information that we try to help people use those. But there's also a lot of electronic applications on cell phone or tablet or on a home computer that can help you find a nice, safe, and easy route to get someplace. So we talk a lot about, what are the tools that are out there. And then we have the series of rides, which I lead, which are designed for adults primarily, who are interested in biking, maybe haven't been on a bike in a long time, or maybe are new to the area and don't know how to get around. And we base them on certain themes to intrigue people. So I have a downtown fountains and art ride, for example, or a classic, modern, and future bikeways ride, talking about how the bikeway infrastructure is built. And we use the low traffic streets, the bike boulevards, the off-street paths, and some other streets with bike lanes on them. But basically I try to show off the low stress routes that people can use to get around.
And I think that's really helpful. That I always tell people you can learn a lot on the internet, but the one-on-one and talking to people, like you're saying about some of the gear or whatever, and showing them and leading by example, showing them how to signal turns, how to use the green bike boxes, the bike lanes, things like that, really helps a lot.
It's true. I mean, one thing that I show off pretty much every ride is we have the marking at many intersections that if you position your bike over the two lines and there's a little bike guy in between two lines, if you put your tires on those lines, it'll trigger the signal to give you the green light. In other words, it knows there's a vehicle waiting. A lot of people have seen those but didn't understand exactly what they were there for, so it gives a real practical tip for getting around.
It does. Now, we've got only a few minutes left. What's in the future? What are you guys talking about down at active transportation that's in our future?
Well, let's see. We've got a lot of ideas. Right now we're doing our Smart Trips program, where we basically send out direct mail, and this year we're doing it to everyone who's moved in Portland, either moved to Portland or within the city and in a new neighborhood, and we invite them to order free maps or free brochures or informational booklets, which we deliver to them by bike. And that's the idea. Is if someone has moved to a new home, they're still learning how to get around, and so we want to catch them while they're forming those habits and let them know there's probably great places they could walk, a bus route nearby perhaps, great bike routes that they could learn about, and we want to make sure that they're aware that those are there. Down the road, we're working on bike share for Portland. We've got a lot of the details set, but there's just a couple that we're still working on, and so we hope to kick that off next year. And that, I think, will be a real amazing addition. It's basically a brand new type of transit system for the city. But instead of hopping on a bus and going where you want to go, you hop on a bike, you ride it for half an hour or less, and it's free. And you drop it off near your destination and go about your business. And that, I think, will increase the number of people riding. And the more people who ride, the safer, statistically, a city becomes.
Yes, and I think we've seen that over the past decade or 2 decades.
Yes.
I think we've really seen that. Like you're saying, people are very courteous. And let's see. So you've got. Let me ask you one last question. We didn't have a bike show this year. What do you think about that?
Well, I love going to bike shows. I know that there is work on the Portland Manifest, or excuse me, Oregon Manifest show, and that's a show that's based on getting bike builders to come up with their best ideas and their best innovations and to build a bike and to show that off. And we've had that, I think, about biannually for the last several years. I believe this year is again one of the years. It would be at OregonManifest.org, perhaps. It'd be easy to Google.
Yeah.
And I've been to a few of those shows, and they're great. I mean, you will see people drooling because the bikes are so beautiful and they have such interesting innovations. So it's not exactly a general, you have to really love bikes to want to go to do it. But if you do love bikes, it's an amazing experience.
Well, good. I missed that bike show, and I don't know, as a Portland wheelman, like to promote our club and didn't have that opportunity. So, well, I think we're just about out of time, so thank you for coming, Timo, and we'll probably have you back again sometime because you just got so much information for us, and want to encourage people to do Sunday parkways if nothing else. And where can they find that information?
They can go to portlandsundayparkways.org and see the whole schedule for the rest of the summer.
Great, and you don't have to live in the neighborhood to go. You
That's
can
right.
you can come on in. And so, okay, well, thank you. And we'll go to a safety video now and learn about bike safety, and then we'll come back with our next guest, Todd Roll.
Bike safe, bike smart. Hi, my name is Alexander.
And my name's Elizabeth.
Over the next few minutes, we're gonna have some fun and talk about some pretty important stuff.
Some of it you've heard before, but it never hurts to hear it again
And again,
and again. So here we go. Did you know that bikes are considered vehicles?
meaning you have to follow the same rules as someone driving a car
And why do we have rules?
to keep us safe and to keep things moving smoothly.
That means when you ride in the street, ride in a straight line with traffic on the right side of the road. Riding against traffic is dangerous. It puts you where the driver of a car isn't expecting you.
Meaning he might turn in front of you, or worse, into you.
And you know what that means.
Ouch.
And if you're riding with friends, always ride single file. And here's something else to remember. Always obey traffic lights and signs, and pay attention to lane markings.
When you see one of these, stop. When you see one of these, yield. Traffic might be coming from one side or the other.
Now, since your bike doesn't come with turn signals,
Use your hands.
but always check for traffic before you turn. Do this to turn left, this to turn right. Also, some states allow you to do this to turn right, and do this to stop.
Did you know that 70% of car-bicycle crashes happen at driveways or intersections?
So before you enter a street, stop, look left, right, then left again. And use caution at intersections. Be careful. Don't be a statistic.
Hey, now a word about staying alert.
If you're riding your bike, Alexander,
Hey,
if you're riding your bike, leave your headphones at home or stick them in a backpack. Because if you put them on your head, you won't be able to hear the traffic around you.
bike safe, bike smart.
Well, that's a great video and gave us some good instruction, and for all of us to remember that they're children, but it's good information for adults too, to be, for instance, signaling what you're going to do for cars and fellow bicyclists alike. So we should all kind of heed that, and certainly Northwest Bicycle Safety Council is all about the safety out there, wanting you to have a good, safe ride. So we're back with our second guest, Todd Roll, and welcome, Todd.
Hi, Ann.
Thanks for coming back. And why don't you refresh our memories and tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to be living in Portland, Oregon.
Portland, Oregon. Well, I grew up in Cottage Grove, a couple of hours south of here, where I got a paper route when I was 14 years old and rode a lot around the country roads. I went to college and then moved out of the state. And when I came back to the U.S., I was looking for the most European city I could find on the West Coast, because I'm a West Coast boy, after all. And moved to Portland 10 years ago, and it's just gotten better every year since I've lived here. So it's the right place to be, especially for biking.
It seems to be. Now, just during the break, you discussed you own and operate a business that offers bike rides. You're a professional ride leader.
I guess so, yeah.
Is one thing that you do. And you kind of mentioned how you'd done some of Timo's rides early on. Tell us how that kind of impacted or motivated or, I don't know, epiphany to do this.
Yeah, well, he had some fantastic rides going to different parts of the city, much like Sunday parkways. And he was attracting lots of people that were the target demographic that I wanted to attract to our business too, and that is people who were interested in riding a bike, but maybe didn't have a very good bike, maybe weren't riding very much, or hadn't ridden a lot or for many years, or maybe even decades. And we're showing them safe places to ride and just how fun, safe, and easy it is. And so I just adopted some of those ideas, took a few of the kernels of wisdom that he had shown them, and really implemented that in the business.
So now your business is Pedal Bike Tours, and tell us about that business. So you kind of touched on that, but what is Pedal Bike Tours?
So we've been around for 6 years now, and we've learned a lot. But basically what we are is we do sightseeing tours around Portland and Northwest Oregon, so within 2 hours of the city. We've got to the Gorge, we've got to wine country. And what we're trying to do is attract the large percentage of people in the country who don't ride bikes very avidly. So one of our mottos is no spandex required. So the idea is that you can just walk into our shop wearing your street clothes, maybe having come from the zoo or coming from a play or come from the art museum, and you can jump on a bike and we'll show you all around the town. You won't necessarily sweat or get really hot, and you won't get a huge amount of exercise. Most of the tours are between 8 and 10 miles, but you'll have seen a lot. And we'll show you around the town, and we'll tell you all about the city, a little bit of history and the culture of our city.
So very much like Timo was describing too, or a Pedalpalooza ride, where it's just something unique. Tell us about some of the themes of your rides, the concepts.
Yeah, so, and that's part of the learning experience was that in the beginning I really tried to have rides that really encompass the whole city, or at least as close as we could to our shop in downtown. And we found out pretty quickly on that tourists come here and they don't have a lot of time, and they might be here for a day or 2 days or maybe 3 days, and they really want to see the hardcore stuff that they've heard about. And so we winnowed down a lot of our northeast and southeast rides down to really the basics. So our #1 most popular ride is Historic Downtown. And that is just really pretty much the west side. We get over to the Pearl District and get up into the Alphabet District and go down to PSU and along the waterfront through Chinatown and whatnot. We get a ride on the east side of the river. But it gives them a really nice overview of the city center. And then we encourage them to rent bikes and then go off to the east side and get a little bit further afield. Columbia Gorge is our second most popular ride. It's, Multnomah Falls is the most popular, most visited natural spot in the state, so people want to see it. And so we drive them out there, and they ride past all those beautiful waterfalls.
Oh, right.
And as you know, having ridden out there, built in 1915, really the best way to see the Columbia Gorge is on the historic Columbia River Highway by bicycle.
Yes.
You can't really walk it. There's no shoulder. It would just be too dangerous. But by bike, you can go 10 miles an hour or slower, and you can see up the hillside through the trees, past the cliffs. You can see waterfalls that maybe are only seasonal or that you definitely wouldn't be able to see in a car.
Yes.
So we really love being able to showcase the gorge by bicycle.
I bet.
Other ones, we've got a brewery tour. No, we don't let them get drunk. They do some tasters. It's more educational. We tell them about how Portland has become the world's beer capital.
Oh, okay.
And a lot about the different styles of beer and a little bit of the history of beer in Portland, and taking them around to several of the breweries and let them taste some of the different styles. And that's really fun for people.
Yeah.
It's a big draw, to Portland is beer.
Yes.
Then we have a food cart tour. We take them around to several of the food cart pods. You guys were talking about food. It's certainly, you ride a bike, you get hungry. It just goes together, so why not have something good to eat? So we show them some of the interesting food cart pods, including some out on the east side. We're able to get out of downtown, which is nice.
Does that vary from ride to ride somewhat, or do you pretty much go to the same places?
We keep it pretty standard, actually, yeah. But if people have a food allergy or they're particularly attracted to one style of food, we'll take them to something different.
I see.
But it's really to show them how the city and the food cart pods work together.
Yeah.
And how easy it is to get between them by bicycle.
Great.
And then
concepts.
we also have a wine country tour.
Yes.
We drive down to Dundee and wine country and show them all around there. We do a little bit of riding, a little bit of picnicking, and then some tasting.
And I think for some reason that's always a big draw with cyclists, that idea of doing a wine tour on your bike.
Yeah.
And then you've got a van because you've taken them out there, so a person could purchase wines that they enjoy. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that makes the wineries happy.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
Yeah, they're a little prejudiced against cyclists who blow
Yeah,
in
who
big
who
groups.
drink and
Where's the
leave.
bathroom? Give me some water. We're out of here.
Yeah.
No, I'm not buying anything.
Yes.
So yeah, we try to help the wineries by giving people the opportunity to buy wine.
And that, yeah, you're right. That is kind of an issue to figure out how you're going to do that, and you've got that covered.
Yeah, bring a pannier, fill it with wine.
Yeah. Now, there's kind of a cliche about a busman's holiday. You ride your bike all the time for a living. What do you do for vacation and fun?
Well, not necessarily ride my bike.
Okay.
I've got a daughter now, so it makes it a little more challenging to do big stuff with her. Although we always have aspirations to do more of the Oregon Scenic Bikeways, for example, the nice loops that this state has created to get out. My wife is from Eugene, so we go down there and visit family a lot. We love to travel, so we get out of town and go explore as much as possible. Most of that is done by car, I have to admit, but it's a big state, and you got to get there somehow.
That's right. Well, and those scenic bikeways, yeah, you can drive around the state and ride a little bit.
Yeah, we definitely want to do more of that as we can.
Yeah, don't we all? So, referring kind of to the preface of your book, which we'll get to a little bit later, Pedal Portland, what's your philosophy about traveling by bike?
Well, do it as much and as often as possible. I find myself going shorter and shorter distances, you know, as I get older, and I'm much more about the experience rather than the long distances in between. And so, for that reason, the one scenic bikeway I've done is the Willamette Valley Scenic Bikeway. I've done that 3 times now. So that starts basically in Champouy Park, north of Salem. It goes all the way to Eugene on the most incredible back roads that you've ever seen. And I grew up down in Lane County, and you know, I know I-5 like the back of my hand, but you get off I-5 and it's a whole nother world. So my philosophy is just string a bunch of towns together, or if you're in the city, string a bunch of neighborhoods together, and then find the most beautiful route between them. Maybe the shortest too, but definitely the most beautiful route between them. And just create experiences for yourself.
So it's about the journey, not getting from A to B, it's about the journey.
Absolutely, and what you find in between.
Yeah. Whether you're in the city or on the countryside.
Yeah.
So what are some of your favorite rides? You've got some in your book, but tell us some of the stories about your pedal bike tours and what's so great about them. What do you enjoy showing off about Portland and doing some of these rides that endears you to the tourists? Well,
you know, the town makes it easy, you know, because it's such an interesting place and it is so bike friendly. So really just showcasing Portland, you know, we're really just kind of pulling back the curtain more than anything and letting the city perform for itself. So it's really easy. But, you know, we've got these fantastic little neighborhood centers. You know, Hawthorne, Belmont, Alberta, Mississippi, Selwood, Division, all these neat little places. And, you know, if you just take people to these different areas on these great little streets, you know, full of beautiful Victorian homes and whatnot, and then take them to some of the fantastic restaurants that all the amazing restaurateurs have created here, it really just speaks for itself. So we're really just kind of like showing them which direction to turn and just kind of filling in the blanks on the fun stories.
What a great experience to come to Portland and see Portland that way.
I think so, yeah, and it's a lot of fun being able to show people around. And the book was a way to be able to indulge my passion for exploration of the city and the area, in a way that I couldn't do with the business because they want to see city center.
Yeah.
Rather, they don't have don't have time to get out to Gresham. Or don't have time to get up to Kelly Point Park.
It is quite somewhat different, but you can incorporate a little bit into each.
Like I tell people, if you want to see more of the city, you got to do what the rest of us did and move here.
So how did you? I take it that you said that you had to tweak your routes from initially when you formed your business because, you know, just because that's how you learn. You learn, you listen to your customers, and you try to make it meet more people's needs.
Yeah.
How do you do these? I know that you have employees, you have other people, because you can't lead all these rides. How do you develop these routes? Are you working on a new route of some sort, or what's coming down the pike?
Oh, I've always got a million in my head. But again, you know, there are the things that Portland is famous for. They may change slightly over time, but they're really pretty static.
Okay.
So, yeah, we just...
You feel like you've pretty much honed in on where you need to be right now.
We kind of have,
with your tours.
There's always other places that we want to explore, and you know, I'd love to get people out to a different neighborhood. I'd love to get them up to Williams, but a lot of times they just don't have the time, honestly, to get to these places. Or, you know, a lot of people just want to do it on their own. So, you know, we just send them out with a rental bike or something.
And you mentioned that you can have a tour, or you have rental bikes, and that's another question I kind of wanted to ask. A fellow cyclist said she thought there should be more rental bikes available in Portland because people want to get into bicycling. Probably shouldn't just buy the first bike they see. Should kind of experiment with it, and so by renting a bike, they can ride around town, find out what it's all about. Figure out, do I want to do road rides? Do I just want to be a commuter and you know, go to the grocery store? Do I maybe want a mountain bike? What do you think about that idea that there should be a lot of rental bikes around?
I don't think there are. I mean, it's kind of supply and demand. You know, there's as many as is demanded, and I mean, we have every kind of bike there is ourselves, but I think that everyone should definitely start with a commuter bike. You know, if you do live in the city, you know, get a bike that's roadworthy, that's kind of a middle of the road, a hybrid. You know, and start riding from there, and then kind of see where it goes. You could certainly go and rent a mountain bike and see if you like that. Get a road bike and try the skinny tires.
Yeah.
Go real fast.
And those handlebars.
Yeah. So. I don't know how we could create more rental businesses than there are now if there isn't the demand. And if there is, then maybe, you know, somebody should open it in their part of town, for sure.
Well, and I think the people I'm talking to, we all own bikes, so maybe we're not looking around very carefully to see that there are quite a few rental bikes available for people.
There are, yeah, there definitely
okay,
are. I mean,
good.
There's a certain number. You know, the city of Portland has their website shows all the different places you can rent bikes.
How many bikes do you own? What kind of bikes do you have?
Well, let's see. Aside from the business,
yeah, aside from the business,
I pretty much ride around on PB Herman 3, which is the bike that I use to do the book with. I've got a high-end road bike that I haven't used in several years because I just don't road ride much anymore. And I've got a back injury, so that really slows me down for any of the really hardcore long-distance stuff. I've got my touring bike, of course, so now we're up to 3. So, yeah, well, let's see. Got a mountain bike, too, so I've got 4.
Okay. That sounds about right.
Yeah, a tool for every occupation.
Exactly. That's the way we seem to work. How do you reach out to your target market with your business, pedal bike tours? How do you reach out to tourists so that they know to try you when they come to the city?
Well, you know, thank goodness for the internet. I don't know what we would do without it. You know, we have a website.
Yeah.
So we have that presence. So people are looking for us. People are looking for bike-oriented activities in Portland. So we're there, and they find us there. We have rack cards, our brochures, in the Portland Welcome Center at the airport, at Pioneer Square. Those are the main ones. The hotels all know about us, so when people are asking, what do we do today? Well, you could go ride a bike.
Good. Glad to hear it. I wanted to talk about your book. You published a new book, Pedal Portland, 25 Easy Rides for Exploring the City by Bike. Now, you have an interesting story about how you came to write the book in the first place. Tell us about that coincidence of your new business location.
Yes, how lucky am I? You know, I have to be thankful. First of all, my wife had been pushing me to write a book for a while. And when we moved into our new location 4 years ago now downtown, I ran into the executive director of the publishing company upstairs, Timber Press. So Timber Press does gardening books and outdoor and nature books for the Northwest. Boom. So we get to talking, and she mentions that they've been looking for somebody that wants to do a book on bike rides around Portland. And I'm like, well, my business does bike rides around Portland. Let's talk. So I said, give me a couple of years to get this business under control, and then we'll circle back around. Meanwhile, a friend of mine who is a writer got together with me. He's like, hey, let's get together and write a book together. And I'm like, well, I've got this idea already that I've kind of thought about, but I haven't moved ahead with it. And once he heard that I knew the director of this publishing company, he said, go down there tomorrow, write a proposal, and then turn it into them. And that's what I did. And you know, a month later, I had a contract to write this book. And so here we are 2 years later, and it's hit the shelves.
So many people are going to write a book, and you did. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
I'm pretty amazed myself.
And so how did you compile these routes? There's 25, and I've looked at the book a little bit. I plan to incorporate some of them into my own wheelman rides a little bit. How did you come up with these 25, because there's so much riding around this?
Yeah, well, I mean, 25 was just the number we were trying to hit.
Okay.
I've got several more that
I'm sure
they didn't let me keep in, you know, so there'll be another book maybe one of these days, we'll see. But, and this is the part that just makes my map nerd heart jump, you know. I literally took the Bike There map from Metro,
okay,
you know, the big one of the whole Metro area, and I took my philosophies on starting the business and my philosophies on how to promote biking and what will make the most people happy, and I just did all those things. So my goal was to have little loop circles on that map all over the region, and that conformed to the idea that it should be about 10 miles. It's a good round number. It's not too much for a novice.
Yeah.
It's a stretch maybe for a novice. It's enough to get you out there and get you moving. It'll take 2 to 4 hours. As little elevation gain as possible. So 300 feet of elevation was the max for me, and just as little as possible. And so I just took as many of those loops as I could find that conformed to that, and it just kind of wrote itself. I chose my favorite things, so parks, places to shop, eat, and drink, so little retail neighborhood centers, and I just strung them together on the quietest, best, most bike-friendly streets I could find. That was the trick, and also that didn't had as few turns as possible, so that it wasn't, you know, a big maze. Again,
a novice rider appreciates that. That's scary stuff when you're new.
Right, you know, especially trying to stay on the quiet streets.
Yes.
So I did absolutely as much of that as possible. A few rides had to drop because they couldn't conform to that. Several rides had to drop because it was just too hilly. You know, the West Hills, there's kind of a big gap there. It was just really hard to do rides in there that didn't go up and down constantly, or go on busy streets, or go off cliffs. So it just kind of came together naturally.
And describe a ride. That is, you have a map, so that, because some people see things differently. They need a map so that they can figure it out. There's cue sheets so that you know at mile 2.5 you're going to make a right turn onto this road. There's scavenger hunt. There's interesting things around. Describe one of your routes that way for us, so that.
Okay, well, the other thing that I did to make it easy on myself, and it just kind of made sense in the end, was to start as many as I could at a max stop, as opposed to a bus stop or anywhere else. It made it easy because there's a finite number of max stops. I could also allow people to get there solely by max or public transportation, and they didn't have to ride from one end of the metro region to the other just to get started. So I wanted to be able to allow people to stay out of their cars. So it starts at a max stop, and then with as few turns as possible, it goes along roads, along multi-use paths, car-free paths. One that's really close to your studio here goes along a waterway on a raised boardwalk that is probably unknown to anybody besides the few houses that are in that subdivision. So just finding these neat little ways to get places, hitting usually at least 3 to 5 parks, and then trying to hit as many little shopping areas as possible too. So you just kind of meander along maybe down a residential road, maybe on a little hidden pathway between housing subdivisions, maybe along a telephone line bike path, like the Gresham Fairview Road trail, and then popping out behind some set of streetcar era retail shops, and then meandering off again down some little back road between houses. So just kind of really, hopefully as much as possible, quiet back streets that you wouldn't necessarily see from your car.
Yeah, because you do choose quite different roads for your bike than you do your car. So
right?
Thank you so much.
Different.
Thank you so much for doing this book, because I think it'll help people get out and do some riding, and just your approach to the whole thing. And obviously you had safety in mind, for people to be on safe roads and not make a lot of turns and things. So you really looked out for people, especially
Absolutely.
Novice riders, and that's certainly appreciated.
That was the point.
And learn a little history about the city, and just have fun. And like you say, it's about the ride itself, the journey. A rider I was with a while back said, when I ride my bike, I feel like I'm 12 years old again. And so you're kind of doing that,
Yeah,
just
it's a
having
youth
an
machine.
adventure on your bike.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thanks for joining us, Todd.
I appreciate the time.
And your website was up on the screen, so we know how to find you and look at your rides and find your book. So thank you.
Thanks again.
And thank you for joining us on Psychology Today. I think we've learned a lot about a couple of great people in the city of Portland that are making riding a lot more fun for us here in the Portland metro area, and why Portland is such a bicycling city, because we're so passionate about it. So check out some rides. Bruce Buffington and I do rides all year long, and so go to pwtc.com for a list of our rides and join us, and then get ready to do Beaverton Banks and Beyond Bicycle Tour in August, which again is what I call an event ride, in that you pay to do the ride. There are free bike club rides, but some rides do cost money, and you get something for your money if you pay for the ride. So you're supported and you're shown things and just well taken care of. So thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.